Nilsa. Good to see you, and there's still some people coming in. That is wonderful. I would like to start this service actually by some short announcements. I think it will come to the screen. Yeah, and that's the new Sabbath school time off thing that we are starting. Actually, Marcel, my husband, is starting that at the moment. It's called Bridging the Gap, and it's every 2 weeks. So this week it wasn't, but next week there will be another Bridging the Gap. And the subject is a contemporary one this time, related to war and evil, and if there is any purpose behind it all. So that's what we will discuss next week. If you are interested, then you can come, of course, and it will be in Murdoch Hall number 80. Last week we had the first one, and it was very nice, very great. We had good discussions. So please join us. And then now I would like to ask Marcel and Ilsa to come up.
All right, so I'm not sure if you did manage to watch yesterday. We had an amazing baptism. Nilsa was baptized here in our church. Absolutely, and it is just a matter of formality, based on a testimony, based on a baptism. I think it is our privilege to welcome her into the fellowship of Newbold Church. Do you agree? I'm not even going to make them raise hands and do all of that. I think you get the feel.
I feel welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Nilsa, thank you. Thank you for being with us. This is a formality now, so last week we invited you to consider very, very carefully if you would like us to transfer the membership of 4 people into the Newbold Church community. Sam and Shola are sitting out there, all right, and we have Biliana and Predrag. I did not receive any objections, so I'm assuming that you are happy to have them be part of our fellowship. Is that all right? Just raise your hand. You see, they're happy. So thank you very much for being here with us and for serving actively in our church. One other announcement, and that is there is a children's church this afternoon for children not to 10. However, if you have not registered, we are not able to accommodate any people that will come on the day. I hope you understand, because we had to go and buy supplies and food and coordinate group supervisions and all of that, and it will be very challenging for us to do that at the last minute. So next time, watch the church suite registration, because that gives you all the information that is there. That is me. Thank you for your attention. And I would like to hand you over to our amazing worship team. Strap yourselves in, because I listen in on the practice, and it is outstanding. Thank you.
Right, going to set us up a bit. Well, forget about that last week, no pressure, okay? It's not about the rehearsals, it's about what we've come together to do as a community. And in order for us to do that well, I have a couple of other things to tell you. First of all, could you hand me that ukulele, please? Thank you. I don't know how to play this instrument, but I will be waving this one around quite a bit today. Just literally like this, or like this, or like this. If you don't see it, it means something. If you see it, it means something. As I said, we've come together to do worship as a community, and sometimes it seems like it's only very few who get to be there in the band. We're changing that today. We have wonderful people who are going to assist us now to hand out different percussive instruments, not to be bothered with the question of tuning all of it at the same time. It's not just for kids, it's for everyone. So kids are definitely going to get one, but please grab one for yourself as well, so that we could actually join with our voices and our bodies at the same time. So the way that this works is that when you see this waving around actively, play your instrument. When it's hidden away or really like down low here, then you keep your instrument waiting, because apparently that part or that section in that song is for a different type of an engagement. I'm going to wait for a moment for you to get your instruments, and we're going to see if you've got that part. Whilst you're grabbing your favorites, the program, but I will not be specifically announcing it. It will be collected during the video, the one and only video that we will be seeing today. The deacons will come and you will have the opportunity to give away what you have brought along, to give back materially to the work of God. If you need this slide, take a picture of this now. If you give away what you have brought along to give back materially to the work of God. If you need this slide, take a picture of this now. If you need the details on the slide, if you have not set up a standing order or text messages for donations, then you can take that information now. Right. Could I see the hands of those who are without their own music? And then could we practice this, please? Everyone. The young and the old. When I raise my ukulele, you play. Okay? Obviously, at the moment, you just make a noise with your instrument. During the song, you can be creative. You can do different rhythms, you can choose to add accents to the music, arrange your own part. Ready? Oh, we have to practice that part. You're very good at starting, but really not that amazing at stopping. Let's try again. Okay, this is pretty good. So keep your eye out for the ukulele. When it happens, bring your best all the time, but then add the instruments. I think many of us over the last week have been thinking about this weird, kind of like a cognitive dissonance experience. We are listening to the news. It seems that there are dangers around us, extreme, and certain threats and certain worries becoming so tangible and so clear to us. We hear about the war, we hear about people suffering, thousands and thousands losing their homes, people being confused about where their dear ones are, other ones trying their best to figure out how to help the ones in trouble. Times are strange. It almost feels like COVID's gone away, but when you look at those numbers, then it's gone nowhere. We just don't have the capacity to be in two different crises equally at the same time. But these things are not taking turns, they're piling up. So, where are the instruments? You don't see my ukulele, people. Did you know that pause is the most mighty musical device? We're going to practice that one. When we think about everything horrible that's going around, and literally when I switch on BBC News, you can get anxiety attacks from that. And I'm not the type to usually get anxiety attacks, so it's bad. And at the same time, you wake up and you brush your teeth, and you fix your hair, and you get breakfast, you call your friend, you make a joke, you laugh, it's almost like there are two realities happening at the same time. And perhaps it's sometimes good to be reminded of that, because they are happening always at the same time. There is always somebody suffering, there is always somebody on the move, always somebody looking for someone that they've lost, and there is always
immense pain surrounding us, sometimes more tangible in our living rooms than others. And it does raise the question of how do we make sense of this? How do we lean on something that's solid? How do we find the strength to root us, to center us around something that stands and that matters? Could you stand up with us for the first song?
But do you know that all the dark won't stop the
Thank you. Look around you at all these people who have come here to worship with you. We're actually going to take a moment now to figure out how they've been. I would like you to turn to a person that is not your husband or a wife, unless you haven't seen your husband or a wife for a long time. And I would like you in pairs, and that is a really necessary thing at the moment. In pairs, I would like you to establish who that other person is. I give you 10 seconds to figure out who it is. I'm such a teacher, you'll see me being very strict about this. Wait. Wait. Did you find the person? That's all you need to do. I am so glad that you are so proactive. Is there anyone who hasn't found the person? Is there anyone alone? Okay, wait. It's going to be way more structured than you think. You do this orderly because Paul said that services have to be orderly. So, we're going to do it this way. I will give you about 30 seconds to think about 2 questions. First of all, how are you? And secondly, how is your week? And that happens in full silence. You actually think about this before going like, sure, it was fine. So 30 seconds of thinking about it, and then you have a discussion of 1 minute with focus on one of you, not yet the other one. And then you swap around and you have a discussion with a focus on the other person. You can sit down if you feel that's more comfortable. At the moment, the 30 seconds of contemplation and digging deeper in your soul starts now. Think. Oi! Think first. Oi! People. It's an introspection. Why is it so external? Okay, I'll tell you when to start discussing. Think for now. Okay, I think you're ready to share from one side. You can ask questions, whichever starts. The other person is asking questions. Not yet the time to go, yes, but I. Just one person, spotlight on one. A minute starts now. And now, try to move the spotlight to the other person in your head. with the same theme and the joy that is slowly building up from the misery and then facing the certainty of God's love for us and what it means to us individually. We can sing, I am a friend of God. And for this song, I'm just going to put this ukulele here in Fred's hands, which he doesn't have, but it's visible throughout. So just play your heart out, okay?
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, actually. I feel like I'm really in the mood. This is so you can sit down, by the way. This is really good. How is everybody feeling? Good. I'm really pleased. This is just a little bit awkward because it's completely off topic. But I hope it's okay. Is that okay? Okay. Of course I have to do that. Thank you, Angie. Thank you. Right, so basically, anyway, after this. So, I don't live with my dad. My dad lives really far away from me. And I know it's Mother's Day and everything, but I thought it would be good to actually write him a little something. Just so, I can just tell him how much I love him and all the rest. And English not being my first language, I just thought maybe if I share it with you, can tell me what you think. Is that weird?
No, go on.
Okay, cool. Here it goes. You guys ready? Bless you, Dad.
Good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. A wonderful dad, and I love you so much. Everywhere I go, I tell people the respect and gratitude I have for you. And I tell people about the awesome work you do. Oh, bless you, Dad. You were supposed to come. You're actually here. But in fact, you're coming back. Oh, generous. Wait for it. Magnificent. Okay? Yeah, not a good word? Oh, generous, magnificent Daddy. You deserve to be honored. I speak very highly of you, Do you remember that time when you did a massive sacrifice for me just because you love me? And so I can be forgiven and have life? I can only say, blessed be the Lord, God Almighty, who was and is to come, and who reigns forever. Amen. Wow. Okay, so clearly, thank you guys, thank you. Clearly my poem didn't do it for you, so did you guys catch the poem I just, what I wrote for my dad?
We kind of.
Could you sing it? Is that okay?
You sang the song, you wrote the song as well?
I didn't write the song, but it's kind of inspired. So, is that okay for you guys to sing it? Wow.
maybe put the instruments under the chair. Okay,
Let's bow our heads. Holy Father, you who reign forevermore.
The Bible tells us that your Spirit is here and that your Spirit is moving. That yours is the voice in the still wind. Not the thunder, not the fire, not the storm, but in the quietness you speak to us. A gentle whisper to our hearts. Help us to hear it. We come before you now with everything that are on our hearts and minds.
You know that we live in this world of chaos, pain, hurt, with so much suffering. And we pray for the people currently in war zones.
we pray for the people struggling in the aftermath of invasions, natural catastrophes, the people where famine is destroying populations. Be with them. We know that you are here.
And we know that you see the pain. And sometimes we wish that you could
End it all. Now. But we wait and we long for your second coming. We struggle with questions. Why?
Why, God? We feel fear, powerless in the current situations. We feel doubt.
How can you be good when you're letting these things happen? We feel anger. Anger at the injustice.
It's justified anger. We see the innocent suffer. We feel guilt.
Aware that we are privileged. And sometimes we're wondering, how are we contributing to the state of this world? Questioning what we can do to make this world a better place. Thank you that we can come to you with these questions, that we can battle
With them in your presence. Please send your comfort. Help us find ways to take action. Help us to be catalysts of change and of peace. As we struggle with all these thoughts and feelings and become aware of our human brokenness, we're still fully surrounded by your love. And we're amazed that you, the Almighty Father, perfect and
marvelous in every way, you still see beauty in us. You call us your children. All our sins are washed away through Christ.
help us to see each other the way you see us. As people with flaws, weaknesses, cracks, and yet fearfully and wonderfully made. Each one a unique being, worthy of love, respect, and appreciation.
We were all created in your image. And what this world might tell us are weaknesses are often in your eyes our strengths.
So as we journey together in different ways, keep us together. Help us grow, help us love, help us lift each other up and carry each other's burdens.
Help us dare to share those burdens and those weaknesses with each other. Thank you for loving this church. Thank you for loving this world, loving it so much that you sent Jesus to make a way out. Thank you for
that hope that we have. We love you and we praise you. Amen.
Mountains I can see your river runs to love for me, and I will often love my heart and let the healer say.
So, this over here is Fred. What do you make of Fred?
Was that? He looks sad. Does everyone agree? Does he look sad? No? Lonely? Why? Because the band left the stage? He's flat. Well, wouldn't we all want to be?
Fred got his name because of a mispronunciation of the song that we sang earlier. I am afraid of God. He calls me Fred. He attends the church that I go to. He comes quite often, and he usually sits on the left side from my end here at the platform. And he generally seems to keep to himself a little bit. I think he works in publishing or something, but I'm not quite sure how I know that. I think someone told me. He's quite quiet, so he does open his mouth, but he's really quiet. So occasionally I've been in this embarrassing situation where I think I've kind of missed his happy Sabbath, just whizzing by and just, and then I realised 3 steps later that, oh, Fred, to you too. But he's this kind of a character who's always there, and yet neither here nor there. Bless him, I have this issue with him. I have a pretty serious issue with him. Literally, his personality, ticks or triggers a pet peeve of mine. I love the dude, but he does not properly participate in worship whenever I'm worship leading. He never gets up when we're standing up. He doesn't play the instrument that I put into his lap. He really just, sits there, occasionally barely mumbling some of the lyrics. But that type of an attitude, half in, half not here, it drives me up the wall. And then when I'm worship leading and I look at him, I sing of his love. That's what I feel like. Well, that's Fred for you. And this time round, I just asked him to be up on the platform so that all of you could have the same perspective to what I usually have. Let's leave him up there. I'll come back to him a little later. It was 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was lying in fetal position on my bed, sobbing inconsolably. This was the aftermath of one of the most traumatic experiences of my high school years. I had just finished the last paragraph of Gone with the Wind, and I was absolutely devastated. Red Butler had just walked out on Scarlett O'Hara, and I felt her pain. Anyone who's felt that pain? Anyone read Gone with the Wind? Thank you. It's a sermon for the old people then. Sorry, Lisa. Me included. You don't know the story, then go and figure this out and you see if you get the same effect. I was there. It's a thick one, I felt her regret. I felt her shame. I felt her despair. And I kind of got this sense of hope despite all of this in the background. She had just lost the very thing that she realized she loved the most in the world. I had reread the last lines again and again and again to see if the author, had at least provided some kind of an edgewise hint as to what exactly would happen next, or if there is a resolution awaiting the characters on the other side of the back cover. But no. Margaret Mitchell, the author, had gone and left me in the dark about the fate of her heroine. And there I was, sobbing in fetal position in my bed in the early hours of a new day. I had been annoyed by Scarlett throughout the book. Her selective vision and weird obsessions that really did not make sense. But most of all, I had grown to really empathize with her. I'd realized that
She had depth and grit to herself.
And now realizing that what she had was the best thing, but realizing it too late.
It must have come for her with this horrible tight knot in her stomach, just turning and turning and turning, this sense of shame and guilt and, deep regret. It was difficult to know if the last line of the book, "Tomorrow's another day," was an expression of hope or ridiculous despair. If I ever write a book about my life, it should probably bear the subheading of "Selected Scenes from a Ridiculously Privileged Life," because imagine listing that experience as the most traumatic moment of my early years. Of my years in
General, I think, honestly. But I am sharing it with you today for a very good reason. It links to a topic that has been up in the air on this campus for quite some time. It's the theme of stories. We have been exploring this here in this community too, because every journey that we talk about is a type of a story that it kind of ends up being. We've acknowledged the realization that good stories tend to sweep us off our feet and take us on a journey that invites us to explore, to discover, to understand, to
feel, to love, to the point of despairing when they are in despair. I'm sure that you found yourself in somewhat similar situations. You must have surely wept for a character in the book, or on the movie screen perhaps. Felt their pain, laughed their laughters, experienced their relief, held your breath at times, got infuriated by another one's choices just to turn the page and forgive them again. We empathize with the heroes, even if we don't 100% approve of their choices. Just think of your favorites in, let's say, Game of Thrones or Peaky Blinders. Just think of how many of us wept when Snape found his... Severus Snape? Please. Is that too old too now? Found his end. Despite their flaws, the characters grow on us as we walk with them. As we walk with them across the seasons and the pages, and we really end up caring for them. Well-told stories feature rounded characters that invite you in and bind you to them. What are well-rounded characters? It has nothing to do with weight. It's a term from literary studies, but applied to any kind of storytelling, from movies to pages in the book to screens to stages
in the theatre. Rounded characters are the ones whose background, whose reasons, whose hopes, whose flaws are presented to us with nuance, in detail. The text provides us with information that builds up a story behind them that is interesting, complex, nuanced. The story places that character in the spotlight and makes them three-dimensional. We can look at them from each angle and we can see what they are like. We can explore their dark side, their light side. They are real. They are relatable. They're the heroes in those stories. And if you write a text or you are aiming to produce a drama, you are expected to produce a character that people can be drawn in by. In literary theory, they are usually compared against the other type of characters, the two-dimensional ones. Those are the characters whose stories are not outlined to the audience to the same degree. There are variations within that category. Sometimes they only serve as a label or a function, like background props or extras to the story of the lead character. This way, the hero might visit a doctor to find out that they have a serious disease, and you meet the doctor, but the only function of the doctor
is delivering the diagnosis. We don't know what they do before or after the main character steps into that room. We find out nothing about their childhood, their education, their values, their dreams, their fears or motivations.
In many cases, those characters don't even say much or do much. The descriptions are lacking. They are just there for a function. The heroine of a romantic novel might be dating a handsome ex-quarterback only to be dumped by him, so that she would after that go through some soul-searching and character development. And that poor ex-quarterback just sits there as a flat stereotype. No more substance to him. These characters walk around with a label of 3, but not a full story attached to them. This difference in our approach in those texts is understandable. The book has the optimal word count, and you can't possibly, imagine a book that would actually give you the full stories of everyone involved. It would be quite a project and an interesting one to undertake, but it would be a bulky one. The series would last for ages. Well, there are some who might want to rethink Home and Away and Bold and the Beautiful in that light. It would be impossible to give every taxi driver and every shopkeeper the same attention as to the main character.
2D and 3D characters in normal stories are inevitable in fiction. In some ways, it is true of real life too. There are people in our lives who are there for their functions only. We meet the bus driver, we meet the policeman 1 and policeman 2 on the corner. We have the delivery guy or the Uber man. We have that weird pigeon lady in the park, crowds of people in a tube. They're a kind of background noise to the stories that we live out day by day, step by step. I appreciate them. I might get annoyed by them if they linger in my way. But they remain flat, 2D, cardboard characters. The truth is that as we are looking at how to live out our life as a community here at Newbold, it's very difficult to do meaningful community with the likes of Fred. They come with a very limited way to give to them. And the way that he gives back is even more limited. So isn't it great that the actual people around us are not like Fred? That we are all unique, that the people around you are rounded characters with rich stories and complex personalities. They are. So isn't it great that we can just live out the fullness, the magnitude of rich, loving community with them? Thank you for being so rounded. Yes, you are. But that's not enough. I must admit that I have never cried for the breakup or divorce of any of the members of my community, the way that I cried for Scarlett O'Hara losing Rhett Butler. It might have had a little bit to do with the hormonal imbalance of my late teenager years, but still, for some reason I don't tend to engage with the community around me the same way. It doesn't matter that you are rounded characters. If I don't know your corners and your curves, you are flat to me in my story. If you don't see other people's stories, they are flat to you in yours. In my story, those rounded people have been turned into flat sidekicks that serve certain functions, that sit there as stage props. The ones who are more like me, the ones that I have attached the pleasant labels or functions to, they are there so that there would be somebody who sits with me so that I wouldn't sit alone. Somebody who sings with me so that my voice wouldn't sound so solitary. Somebody who plays for me, somebody who smiles to me, somebody who pats me on the back and gives me a compliment on the way out. Thank you for serving your function. The ones that we dislike, they serve as the ones who develop our character. Who are the ones who stand in our story as the little grain of sand in our little seashell that turns me into a pearl. That's not really how the sand thing works, but technically that's how we think of them. His function is to diversify the community so that we would all be challenged. Her task is to disagree with me so that I could forgive and grow. We assign those functions to different people around us based on what we need in our story. We ask ourselves the question, what is he doing or what is she doing in my story? We actually even say those things. I wonder what his role is. Why did I meet that person? What his role is in my story? And then we get upset with people when they fail to do their duty to us. Fred here fails to do his duty for me as a worship leader. He fails to stand up and sing with the appropriate passion so that I would feel good about my role that I have prepared in earnest and I believe that I have been polishing for some time. And then as I look at him and his failure to meet my needs, I assign all sorts of additional labels right on top of him. He serves as a function. You serve as a function. I serve as a function. And we project interpretations on them, we project stories based on what would fit with my narrative. Well, why? First of all, I must admit that simply by my nature, I am probably more inclined to turn you all into Cardpoard. I know that there are other people who are more empathically inclined, who naturally feel more deeply the stories of others. But in addition to that, it's not just, oh, this is who I am, woe to me, let's move on. I think that there's also a level of my choices in this. I think that there's also a level of our structures that make it that when we as a community come together, it's very easy to assign roles to everyone, to put everyone in a group and give you a task, 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 and then see those people as those tasks. They become the cardboard characters fulfilling their part in my story of experiencing community. That is not enough. We can do better. I want to try to do better. Let's open our Bibles at John 15:12. It reads, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." Now, we always like the part where it is like, do to others what you want to be done to you, etc., etc. That is very self-centered, and it is very useful and handy and helpful, and very challenging. But I think in some ways, we take this like, what would Jesus do type of an approach, and we turn this into a comfortable excuse, not really digging deeper into what that entails. Jesus says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." What does it mean in relation to stories? We read a little later, 2 chapters later, that we ought to also, a couple of verses later, that we also ought to die for our friends because there's no greater love. How often do we do that? It's a very extreme example. So we all go like, nee, you know, nee. We're not gonna literally drop dead for the sake of somebody here in the community, so it's a very convenient, abstract thing to subscribe to. Of course, I will die for all of you. I will die for the one who sits next to me so that I wouldn't feel alone. I will die for, you know, I will even die for him because that is how great I am. The truth is that when we approach this text, we often forget that we don't really have the ability to love exactly the way that Jesus loved. It seemed so easy in the case of Jesus. He walked through the crowd and sensed their stories, and he loved them. He didn't love them as the crowd, he loved them as individuals. He went, who touched me? He went, I know you. He went, go and tell. He went, this is your story and that. Now raise your gaze and only look at the mouth of the other person. Oi, people. If we can't handle this, we can't handle community. I'm actually serious about this. If you want somebody to open up to you, but you can't look at their mouth without giggles, how is that going to work? Stories in that city, then, before, and after the moment that he wept. Jesus had a unique gift to love those stories because he had a unique insight into those stories. And yet somehow we think that we can work ourselves up to this type of a similar ability that I walk through those pews over there and I feel love for you. No, I know that's not how this works. And then very conveniently we have turned to an interesting solution. We have theorized the concept of love. Well, you can't possibly sit here and feel the pain of every single Ukrainian person. It would literally kill you. We wouldn't be able to do anything with that sensation. So we love in principle. We love as a duty. We love as an idea of love that we subscribe to. It's justified to a degree. Because similarly to the pages in the book that are limited, and similarly to the series that have a limited number of episodes, our field and depth of vision into matters of other people's lives, or into any matters for that matter, is limited. Psychologically, sensorially, intellectually, there's only so much we can take. So it makes sense to have some that we love deeply with their entire rounded character. But how do you do community when you don't even bother figuring out the rest of the people around you? You can close the Bibles, because I think that this bit of theology is the part that happens after you've shut the book. It's the place where you can walk away with a Bible verse. Love one another as I have loved you. But what matters is what you do with it after. And I think in order for us to be the community that truly can live out that command, we need to acknowledge that we're different from Jesus. We need to acknowledge that just by me looking down at you from here, I don't know your stories, and you could very well all be Fred for me. Unless I take the intentional extra step to treat you as a rounded person who is here in their own right, with their own unique story, whom God has brought here. You're not here by chance. You're here for your reasons, for your story. And if we want to do community, we need to be intentional about actually doing justice in our stories to the other three-dimensional characters around us. I was thinking about the exercise that we had at the beginning, where we went, share, talk. We always go dig deeper, don't just go fine, just really, bare your soul. And sometimes I'm frustrated about this, like people don't come to worship open enough or authentic enough. We all pop up our masks and blah, blah, blah. But it's impossible to take off your mask unless you know that this space is safe and secure. And that duty is not on me. I'm not supposed to be emotionally, intellectually suicidal. It is the duty of our community to create a place and space where people feel like their deepest stuff is coming out naturally. Because we know that we are around people whose stories matter and who think that my story matters. So that even if I have flaws, even if I am stubborn, even if I have my own compulsions, even if I make ridiculous choices, you weep for me more than you do for Scarlett O'Hara or the lead characters in Peaky Blinders. For that, each of us, before we bare our souls, need to try to look at the others and intentionally see them 3D. And then we can together write our story as a loving community, brought together by the divine love that Jesus knows we can have for each other. And that is wonderful in theory. That, for me, touches my deepest comfort zone borders. I would like us to try an exercise now. Listen before you do anything, and then I will give you a chance to make the moves, and then I hope for focus again. Who was the person that you were paired up with at the beginning? Could you try and shift your seats in any messy way so that you would be facing them directly? You're still seated, but you're facing that person. Do that now. Actually turn your chairs. You need to be facing them, not twisted towards them. Full frontal confrontation. And make sure that it's two of you in the room. Okay. Once you're ready, you can take a deep breath and focus. I would like you to just look at each other's feet. No comments, by the way. There's no chatter, there's no nothing. It's just you. It's just you and your gaze. Just look at each other's feet. Feet, the shoes, the socks. Imagine those feet going places. Imagine them taking a stroll in the park. Imagine them running frantically to catch the bus. Imagine than stumbling and falling. Just keep your gaze on the feet. Now raise your gaze, but only to the hands. Look at the other person's hands. Imagine how much they do. If you're feeling uncomfortable, that's good. That's good. Look at those hands. Imagine them working at the computer, sending a work email, texting, "I'll be right back home," to somebody they love. Shh. Focus. Now raise your gaze and only look at the mouth of the other person. Oi, people! If we can't handle this, we can't handle community. I'm actually serious about this. If you want somebody to open up to you, but you can't look at their mouth without giggles, how is that going to work?
He who began a good work in me, he who began a good work in me will be faithful to complete it. He'll be faithful to complete it. He who started the work will be faithful to complete it in me. Will be faithful to complete it. He'll be faithful to complete it. He who started the work will be faithful to complete it in me. Will be faithful to complete it. He'll be faithful to complete it. He who started the work will be faithful to complete it in me. He who started the work will be faithful to complete it in me. Right, we've come to the end of our what was the program? Gathering, that's it. And to be honest, before we started, I thought that Fred was a rather cool dude. No, seriously, like, he looks good, he's got a nice red bow tie, he sat quietly, he's very polite, so I thought he was actually quite cool. And I sort of aspired to be like Fred. Well, not literally, pretty much the same color we were already, I just did a red bow tie. But honestly, sometimes I do feel like a threat because I just sit still and nobody can rely on me and I'm not relying on anybody. So thank you, Kart, for the message you shared today. And I'm truly understanding that for the past 2 months, 2 or 3 months actually, since we've been gathering here in the contemporary service, it just feels very different. And we talk a lot about community, but I'm understanding that community is no meaning, it's not something that we can understand, but that we truly have to live. So I would like to encourage every single one of us today to try and just, if not think more, but just be more intentional when we do the things we do, to reach out to people, to pray for one another. And thank you for that last exercise, that was really awkward. Because looking at people in the eyes is fine, but somehow looking at your shoes is like, what are you doing? But it was really good, it was really good. So thank you for that once again. So I would like to wish you an excellent Sabbath, and we usually say have a good Sabbath and a good week. Yesterday the week ended and we're already wishing you a good week today. But actually, have a good Sabbath, every one of you. And the rest of the week we have time to contact each other and talk to one another to find out how we're doing. How does that sound? Yeah, does that sound good? Okay, so we'll see each other again in 2 weeks on the 19th of March. Have a great Sabbath, everyone.